than this guy. Not only did he bring his team back to win and get victory Monday for beating the Colts yesterday, but he also tied Dan Marino for the hottest start in a quarterback in the Super Bowl era. He's now 25-5 since he's taken over and took Joe Flacco and said, get out of town. So why do we continue to hate on this guy? This dude is hot. He's winning at an alarming clip. Let's put some respect on his name.
Oh, turnover chainsaw, Jenna. Oregon State, Washington State gets the turnover and break out the turnover chainsaw on the sidelines, courtesy of gopherhole.com if you ever want to go to an Oregon State game. Here we go. OSU athletics venue comply with all TSA and Homeland Security prohibited items list. These include, if you ever want to go to the game, firearms, outside beverages, and chainsaws. So if you ever go to a game, leave the chainsaw on the side to the players. Do not bring one, Nick.
That's good to know. Well, it's also good to know, and I think America knows it at this point, Patrick Mahomes on pace to be the greatest player in the history of the league. So Dan Marino had 2 records fall yesterday. The one Brandon mentioned and this one, fastest to 100 career touchdowns. When you look at the quarterbacks on the 100 career touchdowns, like Peyton Manning, how many interceptions did he have en route to his first 100 touchdowns? The answer is 69. What about Tom Brady? The answer is 54. Joe Montana's 53. Patrick Mahomes, 19. So not only throwing touchdowns at an unprecedented rate, but taking care of the football at an unprecedented rate, which might lead to him winning MVP, Jenna.
Good stuff there. Hey, Big Ben did not have his best game yesterday against the Cowboys by any stretch. Through 3 quarters, he was awful. He looked banged up. He looked beaten. Frankly, if I'll just say, he looked old. So how did they come back and beat the Cowboys? Mika Fitzpatrick is an absolute beast. And Big Ben kind of willed this team in the 4th quarter. His line, 11-16, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, 136 passer rating for Ben Roethlisberger. This is a game this team loses under Tomlin a couple years ago. Not this team, not this year. And not with Ben Roethlisberger somehow getting it done as quarterback.
There we go.
All right, guys, Steelers won a game they almost lost. Unlike the Seahawks, who lost a game they should have won. Josh Allen and the Bills out-dueling Russell Wilson for the win in this one. Russ had an interesting day. 390 yards, 2 touchdowns to Cook, but also 4 turnovers. He overcooked. And that terrible Seattle defense continues to be terrible. Very consistent. 4 touchdowns for Josh Allen as the Buffalo Bills get the win. Michael Vick is back with us. Mike, what's the bigger story here? Russ turned that ball over 4 times or Josh Allen torching that Seattle defense?
Russell turning the ball over 4 times. And Russ will tell you this morning, you can't win games if you turn the ball over, regardless of how it happened. You know, the chances of you winning the game just go way, way down. And on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just disappointed in the Seattle Seahawks, knowing that Russ was cooking, knowing that Russ needed help. And this was the time to step up. I looked at this game as a challenge for the Seahawks, going on the road, playing against a good team that's just as good on both sides of the ball, and going to make it super competitive. And they let their team down. They let the offense down. They let the entire team down. I thought Jamal Adams coming back was going to be a great fill-in, and Dunlap being inserted into the lineup. But it was the exact opposite. And got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills. They capitalized on all the turnovers. Josh Allen, you know, he played a phenomenal game. So they put it all together when they needed it the most. And, you know, this is a game that the Seattle Seahawks have learned a lot from. You know, it's a character-building game. They learn a lot about themselves after a game like this, and they got to come back strong.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. To me, this comes down to Russell Wilson and his struggles. Josh Allen, wow. I mean, where was this guy the last 4 weeks? One of the things that I get hit up all the time on social media is, Brandon, why do you defend quarterbacks so much? It's because I don't just talk about the interception. I want to talk about the why behind the interceptions. So when you look at Russ, he had a bad game. You go back to the Arizona game. I don't think he had a bad game. I think he had 3 bad plays. This time around, he had a bad game. Those picks were bad. It was him pressing. It was him cooking too much, Jenna. But when you look at the why behind it, to me, it's the protection. He was hit 11 times. So when I look at their offense and why they struggle at certain times throughout that game, it really was because Russ and Shotty didn't do a great job of protecting Russ. They didn't do it. Russ is one of the quarterbacks that's so involved in making sure that he's a part of the game plan with the offensive line, the offensive coordinator when it comes to protection. He, as all quarterbacks, point out the mic, but he's also getting his guys in position. That is Russ doing that. When you see Russ get hit 11 times, you see free hitters coming, and he can't even get into his rhythm. He can't step up in the pocket. He can't escape. That is an issue, and that's more alarming than the interceptions, is why aren't you guys handling the fundamentals? So, Nick, Russ, to me, just opened up the floodgates for so many other people to enter in this discussion of who is the real MVP. Yep. I still have him there because when you look at 2018 and Mahomes had 15 touchdowns, 12 picks. Well,
50.
he hasn't exceeded that, so we're still good. We're still good.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's pacing in the wrong direction. Russ has 7 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. On the season, only Wentz, Cousins, and Daniel Jones have more interceptions than Russell Wilson. That ain't great. Now, I know Bill's Mafia is saying, really? We're not going to get any credit? Josh Allen's not going to get any credit? And the answer is, no, you're not. Because you were playing Madden on rookie mode. That's the Seattle defense. I'm not going to give you any credit because you're playing a team that every single quarterback has annihilated. And Wilds, you were early on this, and I want to give you credit. This Seattle team is half a team, as you put it.
That's right.
And now that you look at halfway through the year, you're like, well, they were a yard away from losing to New England. They needed a 4th down conversion to beat Dallas. They needed a million things to go right in the final minute to beat Minnesota. Wilds, those 3 teams are 7-17, which speaks to the fact that the defense is so bad that even when Russ plays well, because Russ played well in those 3 games, anybody can hang with them, which to me is wildly concerning if I were a Seahawk fan, Wilds.
That's right. They're going to get into the playoffs and lose immediately because we know the blueprint how to beat this team. And Brandon, I know you're banging on Russ. This wasn't Tampa Bay. They lost the game 34-44. And granted, Russ put them in some bad field position to like make it easy on Josh Allen. But this wasn't a shutout. This wasn't 38-3. He scored 34 points. So like, hey guys, we had a chance to win this game. But Pete Carroll had the most mind-boggling, on the verge of funny quote. He said, hey, these guys didn't even try to run the football today. What gives? We didn't expect that to happen. We didn't think they'd totally abandon the running game. We had a nice plan. Coach. They were going to run it.
Really, Coach.
We have to be able to adapt. Brandon, I have no idea why Pete Carroll thinks this when they give up the most yards through the air in NFL history. So I thought this was a very bizarre quote. To his credit, we've only done about 20 hours on this subject, and the show comes on at 4:30 in the morning in Seattle. I don't expect them to get up that early, but if you want to DVR us, we're right there banging on your defense, Pete Carroll, so pay attention.
Well, Wilds, I thought the same thing. When I saw this quote, I think it was Pro Football Talk, I was like, what is Pete Carroll doing? This is Pete, being too honest. But then the more I dove into it, I said it makes sense. Because when you look at how they're built, right? Defensively, they can't stop anyone. So you got to be great at one thing. So they went in saying, let's just stop the run and let's let Josh Allen, who's been struggling, Mike, for the past few weeks at an alarming rate, let's let him come in here and try to beat us. We at least have a chance there. They stopped the run, but then Josh Allen actually showed up. I mean, it's not like Josh Allen was struggling where, you know, he threw a few bad balls, he threw some picks, he turned the ball. Josh Allen couldn't hit a 5-yard outcut. He was throwing 15 yards on a 10-yard in cut. Like, this dude was off the mark, way off. So, Mike, I think Pete Carroll was on to something. It just didn't go the way he planned on Sunday.
Hey, Coach Carroll, no, this is the NFL. And Coach, you know, anything can happen. You can't come in and expect them to just run it or to just be, all in on the pass. You got to expect a little bit of everything, Coach. This is why you game plan. You're one of the best. You got a Super Bowl under your belt, Coach, but don't be one side biased. You're a defensive mind. Open up, expand it. You know what's coming at you. You know what you're going to get. Be ready. I got a lot of respect for Pete Carroll, and this will certainly be a learning experience